Hello, and welcome to another episode of Debt Free Stories. My name is Jen,
I'm Jill.
and we are the co-hosts of the Frugal Friends podcast, available wherever you get podcasts, helping you spend money in a way that you love without going broke and being able to spend in the future. And one of the ways we know you guys are doing that is by paying off debt. And so we are bringing you a series of debt-free stories that we know will inspire and motivate you on your journey.
And we've got another inspiring story for you. This one comes from Kelly, who's going to share with us what her debt-free journey entailed. Kelly, thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me. This is really exciting. I think we can't share a story enough, and if it inspires somebody else, I'm all for it.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about you, Kelly.
Yeah, so my name is Kelly Shostrom and currently live in Portland, Oregon. We moved here about a year ago from the Minneapolis area in Minnesota, and so a little bit of a change. But I am a project manager by day and personal finance nerd by night. I got started on this journey after realizing one day that I had a ton of student loan debt, and I was totally emotionally overwhelmed and done with it. And so I've just been kind of doing this personal finance story, which I think a lot of obviously the people here relate to. But I found that I was just somebody that likes to go hiking and I like to go out to eat in restaurants and I want to go on vacation. And I wanted to figure out a way to make that more embedded into my life naturally without having to listen to these white buttoned up people that have opinions on what you should and shouldn't do with your money. And so, yeah, newlywed, I guess, mother of a dog and a cat. And so just, living my best life that I can in my 30s here.
That's great. Thanks for the introduction. You mentioned that there was a time when you realized the amount of debt that you had. Was that an actual moment that you can remember, or do you think it was more gradual? What was your experience?
So I always knew I had student loan debt, right? It didn't even really phase me taking out the loans in college. It was just a fact of life. When I was done with college, I was just making the payments. And of course, I would complain about them every chance that I got. And I would just feel and talk about how poor and broke I always felt because these monthly payments were just kind of like taking up a lot of my income. Um, Looking back, it was also a lot of other problems, but I do remember the moment where I had that I'm done moment. And so it was this gradual storyline. But I remember I was listening to just a podcast and it probably was Dave Ramsey or somebody, a coworker, I think, recommended it. And I remember just being at work and thinking, okay, I'm just going to log into my student loan accounts and see how much student loan debt I had. I didn't think it was like a problem at that point. I had been paying them off for 8 years and I was like, I've got to be pretty darn close to paying these things off, right? And so when I logged in and I had paid maybe 10 grand in the last 8 years, that's when I had my like breaking moment of like, this cannot be what my life is because I spent so many years thinking I was doing a great job and making progress. And I know so many people that were deferring their loans and so many people that were paying less than their minimums. And I was doing like quote unquote all the right things. And so I really thought I was ahead of the curve. And then when I logged in, I was kind of panic attack moment of everything that I've been doing has been kind of doing nothing.
Oof, yeah.
I feel that in a real way.
Yeah. So how much student loan debt were you specifically looking at?
So when I logged into my computer, it was $46,514.91. I recommend you write that exact number down because you will want to know what that number was because so many people will ask you like, how much did you pay off? And the sad part is I don't even know how much student loan debt I had, and I don't think that that's that uncommon. I am guessing I had around 60 or maybe give or take 5 grand. I have not a clue, but I know that after making 8 years of payments, I and looking at how much was applied to principal, that there was not that much damage that I did in those 8 years.
Oh, yes.
Dang.
So, what is the first thing that you did after you saw that number?
Um, so I became like super like OCD about like, okay, I need the charts. I need to write everything down. I need to figure out a plan. I need to figure out how much extra I can pay per month. And I didn't have a budget. I didn't track my spending, like all the things that we talk about all the time, right? And so it was getting to the point of how do I know how much that extra that I can afford? And so at that point, I was also waitressing on top of my full-time job. I was thinking, okay, I can work an extra 2 shifts a month. 2 shifts a month isn't bad when you're in your low to mid 20s and you have no responsibilities, right? Um, and I was like, let's say worst case scenario, make $100 a shift. I'll pay an extra $200 a month. And that was just kind of where my logic came from. I didn't look at where is my wasteful spending going? Where are all the opportunities where I don't even have to work anymore? I can just kind of refine as I go. And I quickly figured out that $200 extra a month was pretty easy. The one thing that I did that I think was a game changer for me is I posted on Instagram how much debt I had, and I said in the post, and I love going back to that post, like scrolling the millions of photos. Um, and I wrote this long story about like why I was posting this, how much debt I had, and that like I was making a commitment to myself to pay it off, right? And at that point, I didn't realize there were people that were watching my story. And so every month I would say, I paid off an extra $100. I paid off an extra $50, like whatever it was. But then as the traction, as you stay motivated and get really excited about, oh my God, I'm actually seeing progress, then I was able to get up to like over $1,000 a month extra that I was paying towards my debt.
That's so powerful, that power of community and giving other people permission by sharing your own vulnerability, like with discretion, but like being willing to share things that other people won't gives others permission to do hard things. And then also in turn supports you doing the hard things, which that's so beautiful.
Absolutely. And I didn't intend for anybody to engage. The only people on my Instagram were my friends from college and high school and that kind of stuff. But I would like go to dinner with a friend. And I think, like, no shame on my friends. I think in the beginning, it was kind of this like, not like it wasn't a joke, but it was about like, oh, Kelly, did you make any progress? Like people thinking that it wasn't going to be this big thing. And then I think when I paid off all of my debt in such a short amount of time, people kind of had this jaw dropping moment and they were like, oh, wait a minute, like she actually was doing something big. And it's actually something that, and I think it started to make people think like, well, crap, if she did it, what should I be doing in my life? And so I think it started off on this like conversational piece that people would say, oh, how are you doing? Like, whatever. And then it became, oh, crap, like big things are actually happening. And she made it look fairly easy. And so then I started getting people asking me, like, well, what did you do?
I mean, it is pretty funny. It sounds like you've got some friends that were inspired by what happened, and I think that is another aspect to the communal piece of this. When you draw others in or you put yourself out there, it can draw their attention to their own circumstances and think through, well, are there any parts of this that I want to be implementing?
Yeah, I think it's just like anything, and I compare it a lot to like compound interest, which is a really easy one in this finance game, but like there's no better time to start than like today. Like you can't wish you started I wish I would have started when I was 22. Like I could be hung on that thing forever, right? The fact that I started when I was like 29 or 30, whatever it was, did a lot of damage. Like that was 8 years of me just throwing money out the window, and I could have had compound interest. I could have changed my life sooner. I could have got rid of a lot more stress. I could have bought a home sooner, like all these compounding things. But in reality, we can't undo the past. And so what can you do today? And the answer is just start today. So whatever your first step is, for me, it was just logging into my student loan accounts and to figure out how much debt am I even talking about here? Is this as big of a crisis as I think it is? And I didn't think it was, which was really sad because it was. I was really proud of myself and I had no reason to be. But then you might log in. I work with so many people where you log in and you're like, it's actually not as bad as I thought. I've just been hiding from this scenario. And so the first thing you do is just take your first step, whatever that is.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into the nitty gritty. Was there, I know you've $46,000 and change of student loans. Was there any other debt? What was the initial plan for paying off? How long did it take in reality? What did that all look like?
Yeah. So the 46,000 was truly student loan debt, but I am not I also had other debt. Like, so before I started my student loan journey, I think probably, if looking back, what spawned some of this is I paid off my car probably that year or the year before. It was a used car. It wasn't, I think I owed like $8,000 total. So it wasn't a huge deal. But that probably started me thinking about, okay, if I paid off my car, what's next? Which I'm sure I did not pay any extra on my car. Let's be very frank, people. There was nothing also extraordinary that happened there. And then I also in college, because we're all really great at money, right? I studied abroad, put it all on my credit cards, came home, and then my dad was like, okay, girl. And so he helped me learn the world of get a personal loan, pay off the credit cards, and just make this personal loan payment to pay off that debt. So that debt was also gone. So I'm saying this just to say that yes, my success story is student loans, but there was other debts that came and lessons that came along the way. But when I first started paying my student loans off, and I remember I was just paying like an extra 100, or I was like figuring out I'll pay whatever extra I have to. I thought I was on probably like a 5 to 7 year trajectory. I wasn't on this huge thing. I worked for a nonprofit, and so I was kind of playing the 10-year game, right? But what they don't tell you is there's all these little mini rules of like when you refinance, and that can mess things up. Or if you didn't file paperwork, sometimes you can't retroactive like go back and do that paperwork. And so there was just a lot of like ifs, ands, or buts. And so I think that was my moment of, okay, I'm not going to wait for the government to pay off my student loans. I'm just going to do it in like the next 5 years if I can. And it just happened to be a lot more quick than that. It was 20 months. It was like, bam. I know. And it wasn't hard, people. Like that's what I like preach every single day. All I had to do was figure out where the heck my money was going, and I just like redirected it. And so you figure out what is important in your life. I still traveled for weddings. I still went to happy hour. I just didn't like obsessively go to happy hour. I didn't spend $300 at happy hour. I spent like 100. So whatever the things are in your life, and I was lucky that I was younger, so I was able to hustle and work more, but I was a single income person. I wasn't making six figures during any of that. It's really possible. You just have to like take it into your own hands and do it, because you can't wait for other people to do it for you.
Oh, so inspiring and so realistic. Like it's not always super clean. There's different debts that come along the way. It takes time, but for you it took shorter, which is awesome. Were there any lump sum payments or lump sum amounts of money that you got? Did you sell anything to kind of throw even more money at the debt? How did you make it be that those 20 months?
No, nothing. I probably got like a $200 tax credit that I put towards it. I don't know, but there was nothing like worth mentioning that happened. It was the grind. It was keeping my head down. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, my extra student loan payment is non-negotiable. So that was the first payment that I made for the month. And so I didn't let myself like have life get in the way. I didn't let myself overindulge in certain areas and then use the remaining on my student loans. It was my student loans were number one. And then when I got really good at it, I made multiple student loans payments a month, because it was an app. It was easy on my phone. And if I had an extra $100 come through, I just made an extra $100 payment. Then I would add it up at the end of the month, and it adds up to a lot more than what you think it is.
Awesome. And what was your income like? Did it increase over that 20 months at all?
So I was probably making between around $75,000, maybe, give or take, because I was waitressing. So I mean, who knows how much you really make when you're waitressing, right? And so I just say it was for sure under six figures. I wasn't even close to six figures, and the income didn't really change. I went from working four shifts a night, like four shifts on the nights and weekends, waitressing, still working a day job because I had to support my lifestyle, right? To working four shifts because I was paying off my student loan debt. And I didn't really say no to a lot of things. I really just like got very clear about what is important to me, and clothing and like that sort of thing has never been important to me. So it was really easy to like cut out the random trips to Target where you spend money and you don't even know what you bought. I just got really intentional and I had a very clear goal. And 20 months is no time. Our pandemic has been lasting much longer than 20 months, right?
Whoa, so true.
Whoa.
Mind blown. Pandemic is longer than the amount of time it took you to pay off your debt. I mean, congratulations, but also there's like some sad pieces in there too. So for you now, being debt free, what has life looked like now? What have you now been able to carry with you into debt freedom at this point?
Yeah. So I became debt free in like April 2020. So like day one of the pandemic. And so it was easy for me to quit my waitressing job because the waitressing jobs are also gone. But I quit day one and I had been waitressing since I was like 15, like in high school. And so it felt really good just to live off of my daytime job. And I know a lot of people think they can't work extra jobs. And so they're only working that daytime. And there's a lot of people that also can't work those extra jobs. And so it was just I was just happy to get rid of that because it wasn't an extra job because of my passion. Um, I also went to grad school. I got my MBA. I paid for that entirely in cash. And so I didn't even stress about the loans. I just knew how much I had to save per month. And that was my little sinking fund to make my semester payments. We paid off another vehicle. We obviously have like a 6-month emergency fund, which is upwards of many of thousands of dollars, as people that are on that journey know, which we've had to pull out, luckily, but then refunded again. We're saving for a kitchen remodel. So we have however much saved up for that so far. So it's just allowed me to pay for things in cash. And whether you're a cash person or not, when I say pay for things in cash, I mean put it on my credit card, get the rewards, pay off my credit card statement. It's not necessarily me pulling money out of my mattress, but it's that flexibility. It's going to a restaurant and getting the appetizer and the dessert and getting 4 margaritas, and you don't care that they're $15 a piece. And it's all of like that stuff that I'm like, this is what's worth it. And knowing that we're maxing out our contributions, and it's just less stress. Like money isn't even a thought. And I at sometimes I think maybe it should be more of one. Maybe what am I missing? Um, but the day to day filling up my gas tank isn't even like a question. It's not a, do I wait until it's half full or do I wait until it's empty, but then it's going to cost me more money? Like all of those conversations and thoughts that go through my brain are just out the window.
Yes. That is financial freedom. You can go out to eat with us.
Yes.
We will
You
drink
sound like a
Margs
blast.
with you for sure.
Absolutely. And like I was the person, and my friends made fun of me constantly, that was in the Target or Hy-Vee, wherever you're going, the checkout line at the cash. I had my checkbook register, like the physical checkbook register. And people, I'm like not that old. Nobody else had them, but I had one because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't overdrafting and I wanted to know exactly what my balance was. Like that was my way of reconciling my account. And that's like, now I just have a budgeting app that does the thing in the background. Of course, Derek and I have like our weekly meetings and our budgets and beers quarterly chats, but like it's just less, all the stats are on how many decisions that a person has to make a day. It's like half of those are gone now, which is really great.
That's amazing. Budgets and beers. There's a tip right there.
Yes.
So, all right, it's advice and encouragement time. What would you say to somebody who's in your shoes 5 years ago, just kind of beginning to consider debt payoff?
This is like my soapbox moment. This is the thing that I always, when I talk to friends, family that are like, how did you do it? And they think they're like, they put me on this like thing. And I'm like, this was hard work. Like nothing, I accomplished this because I made some really hard choices that not a lot of people want to dive into. So what I would tell people is get started today, obviously, but dive deep end dive into how much debt you have and how much income you have to actually change that, right? And so figure out exactly where all your money is going. Track your expenses. And when I say track your expenses and when I say budget, people, I'm not talking about how much is your mortgage, your cell phone bill, your electricity. I'm talking about all the tangible things that fluctuate every single month, the restaurants, the alcohol, the groceries, the things that eat up your paychecks. So figure out where all of your money is going and actually make a plan to pay it off. You don't have to pay it off in 20 months like I did. You don't have to pay it off in 3 years. Some people are struggling with a lot of debt, but there are free tools out there to figure out exactly when you can become debt free And you are the only person that's making excuses for yourself not to get there. And this is just something that I struggle with so much, because even people that are waiting for the student loan forgiveness from the presidential administration right now, it's going back and forth and back and forth. And all of these people that were like, look, we are getting debt relief. First of all, it's only 10 grand. And a lot of people have a lot more than 10 grand worth of student loan debt. Second of all, don't let these big external powers have control of your life. Like, why are you letting them dictate whether you're going to stress about money every day or not? It is the one thing that really gets me going. And I just wish that every single person that even thought about money as like I'm either not good at it, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, this stresses me out too much, I'm losing sleep, I don't really know where it goes, or the last one that I love is I make too much money to be this broke. And I was that person when I was single and waitressing. If you any of those things cross your mind, just like do something about it. Like, I hate complaining about things that we can actually change ourselves, and I guarantee you it's going to be so much easier than what you think it is, but you just have to get started.
Oh, yes, Kelly.
Snaps to that.
Snaps to that. All right. We have come to the time in the program where it is your time to celebrate.
$46,514.91 paid off.
Paid off in 20 months. How would you like to celebrate with us today? The platform is yours.
I'm debt free.
You're debt free. How amazing. Oh, Kelly, thanks for sharing this incredible story with us and inspiring others and encouraging others and just giving some really fantastic tips.
Yes. And thank you so much for watching. We hope these debt-free stories are inspiring to you, no matter what your walk of life is, no matter what your situation looks like. We hope that you can see yourself and your journey in one of these debt-free stories. So if you enjoyed today's story, if you enjoyed Kelly's journey, please like this video, subscribe to Frugal Friends on YouTube and wherever you find podcasts, and hit the little bell so you get notified whenever we release a new debt-free story.
Kelly's debt free!